Hi, I'm Tuesday Night from A Nightmare on Elm Street, Part 4, and you are watching Psycho Rick.
Till he returns or calls me home, here in the power of Christ I stand. Oh.
Christopher Lamont Bender was born on August 2nd, 1972 in Brockton, Massachusetts. The youngest of 6 children, he was very active in church due to his strong religious upbringing. But it wasn't until Chris was 10 when his family discovered his natural talent for singing, when on Thanksgiving Day, he sang Amazing Grace to them. 2 years later, he would meet a man named Bobby Jones. Bobby owned a studio and helped Chris develop his singing voice and music talent, as well as give him advice on what to look and look out for. For you see, Chris and his family lived in the Crescent Court housing projects during his youth, and around that time, the area was very dangerous with drugs, heavy gang activity, and violence. So Chris tried to focus on his music, seeing it as a way to get him and his family out of the dangerous area. At age 14, Chris, 2 of his brothers, and 2 of his cousins got together and formed a group called Steady Life and would perform in clubs around the Brockton City area. But as much as Chris tried to stay out of trouble, he would get into it from time to time. One particular incident being where he got expelled from high school for fighting at the age of 16, and the year later, dropped out completely. Yet, still determined to pursue his music career, Chris would eventually leave Brockton and head for New York. Why New York is anyone's guess, but then again, it's not called Big City of Dreams for nothing. Eventually, Chris would meet a man named Earl Williams, who would become his manager and ended up getting him a deal with Epic Records in 1989. There, he recorded his first album, self-titled Chris Bender, and released his first single, Baby Girl. However, the album really didn't sell and was limited because Epic Records really didn't get behind Chris, for he was new at the time. But Chris was still determined to make it, and eventually met up with a guy named Terry Calloway, who helped him secure a 7-album contract for $500,000 with East West Records, where on July 9, 1991, released his second album, Draped. It peaked number 92 on the Billboard magazine's R&B album chart, with his first single, I Knew, peaking at number 43 on the R&B single chart for 10 weeks, followed by the song, That's Not the Way, peaking at 68. Things started to look up for Chris Bender, and eventually, he moved out of the hooded part of Brockton. Problem was, he kept coming back to hang around with family and friends who still lived there. And with him starting to make a name for himself celebrity-wise, it didn't take long for haters and jealousy to rear its ugly head. In the early morning on November 3rd, 1991, Chris Bender and his cousin, Jesse Stark, were sitting in a car smoking weed when all of a sudden, hooded men appeared and produced weapons. Chris then jumped on his cousin, using himself as a shield, as the men unloaded 21 rounds into the car. Miraculously, Chris's cousin came out unharmed. Chris, however, wasn't so lucky. He was shot 4 times in the back and once in the elbow. He was rushed to the hospital, where tragically he succumbed to his injuries and passed away. Eventually, police made arrests of 7 men, and convictions followed as well, and they go as follow. One of the men, named Timothy Lucas, was convicted of second-degree murder, but was granted parole in 2015. Another man, named Eroy Kendall, was also convicted of second-degree murder, but he was granted parole in 2008. The third man, Kevin Bynum, was convicted of being an accessory and served 7 years in prison. The fourth man, Ernest Fernandez, nicknamed Lucky, was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to life without the possibility of parole, but the decision was reversed by the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court in December 2014 because he was a minor at the time. And the other 3 men, Carl Moore, Charles Dios, and Stephen Fernandez, nicknamed Sticks, were convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. They, however, are still in prison. Chris Bender is buried at Melrose Cemetery in Brockton, Massachusetts. He was 19 years old. I'm Psycho Rick, saying until next time, thanks for watching.
Till he returns or calls me home, here in the power of Christ.